Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's live chat. I'm Rebecca. There's still plenty of time to get your questions in for today's live chat. Send them to DOC_questions. We have executive staff from every division with us to answer your questions, and to protect your privacy, I'm only going to read your question today, never your name. So if you want to go back to ever rewatch any of these live chats, I always post the recording on the front page of .NET under Executive Director Live Chats. As always, if you do not hear your question on today's chat, it could be that our directors need just a little bit more time to form that response. But rest assured, I'm still going to ask your questions, but I'm going to move your question to the next month to give them just a little bit more time. That said, good morning, Director Stancil. We're so grateful you're here with us today.
Good morning, Rebecca. How you doing?
Good.
So I know we have a lot to get to today, but one of the things I want to talk about real quick, that's on a lot of people's mind, is the recent ruling that came down from the court about our ability to enforce non-working individuals. So we're at a phase now where this just came down over the weekend. If you don't know, there was a ruling came down that basically says something along the lines of, I'm just going to paraphrase, it talks about our ability to force inmates to work. And basically what the news media is painting is basically saying that we're not allowed to force inmates to work. Well, I can tell you what we are as a department is we are reading this and rereading it and rereading it. We're communicating with our attorneys in the AG's office, and we are going to discuss a plan moving forward. There's some things that stand. It doesn't say we can't have inmates work. It doesn't say inmates can't work, but there's a lot of things in there that could be a little confusing. So what I would encourage all staff to do first is don't get overexcited about what you're hearing in the media, because some of the media reports aren't quite accurate about what the ruling says. And I want you all to know that we are working on it with our attorneys. And at some point, we'll decide whether we're going to appeal it or how we're going to implement it. And there's already been things, because this has been going on for a while in the background. So we've been looking at alternatives for either verdict, either outcome. So we do have some plans. You can rest assured of that. But the main thing right now is just let's not get too excited about it. We'll still be able to do what we need to do to make sure everyone's safe. So with that being said, Rebecca, I'll kick it back to you so we can get things started.
Thank you so much. We have a special guest today. It's our State Engagement Manager for Recidivists, Tess Kelly, and our very own Director of Business Innovation Group, Eddie Cayley. Welcome to you both.
Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us.
All right, so I'll be really brief. I'm just really excited. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the name Recidivists a few times over the past several months. I say it any chance I get. Andre and I have been working for well over 2 years to get this partnership cemented in place, and we finally signed the contract. And so we wanted to take a few moments today to get Tess in front of you guys, just to give you guys a little bit of an understanding of what Recidivists does, what we've already done, and what's coming down the road. They're a really exciting technology nonprofit who works exclusively with correctional agencies to create systems to help us better manage our population, work towards better outcomes, and create efficiencies for our staff. So I won't take up any more of your all's time, but I will hand it over to Tess from Recidivists. Welcome, Tess.
Thanks so much, Eddie. It's really wonderful to be with you all here today. I'll just share my screen so you can see my slides. You're seeing the slides there?
We are.
Excellent. All right, so as Eddie mentioned, I'm Tess, the State Engagement Manager for Recidivists. And so as Eddie said, we are a technology company, a nonprofit that's building software for corrections agencies. So most of our focus is around giving staff time back to focus on what matters most. We know you didn't get into this job to do paperwork, so we're building tools that give you time back to spend more time with people and the things that matter to you all most. And we do this by automating the manual parts of your job and making sure you have the right information at the right time. So today I'm going to give you a really quick run through of where we're at with our work together so far and where we're going next over the coming months and years. For the past few months, we've had a few trips to Colorado. And so among many important things like testing out the green chili, we've also had a chance to meet with leadership and many of you across the agency. We also plan to have many more of these conversations and hope to get to know many more of you on this call. But a few of the things that we've been hearing. Firstly, we know there's an ever-growing amount of paperwork and that you're all facing a heavy administrative burden. We know people are frustrated about the different platforms, the duplication of forms and processes, and that people are eager for more efficiency. And we know that you're excited about new tools that offer more flexibility and functionality. We've also gained insights from residents. Working with case managers and prison ops leadership, we launched a survey on the tablets through the Adovo app. And the survey gave us some really useful insights into opportunities to provide people with more information about things like programming and earned time. So in response, last week, we launched a resident app, Opportunities, which is available on people's tablets. The app allows residents to explore programming options independently, and we're hoping here to help reduce repetitive inquiries to case managers. So that's where we started and where we are today, but I'm really excited to talk now more about what's coming next. Next, we'll be working with all of you on rolling out tools for staff, for case managers, parole officers, intake, and other staff across the system. Our big goal here is to make your lives easier, improving happiness and efficiency. So what does that look like? Well, we know from talking to you all that a large share of time across all roles, case managers, clinical staff, POs, and so on, is spent documenting case notes. So first up, we're launching an AI transcription for meetings. We're going to start with a basic version of a meeting transcription that transcribes a face-to-face interaction, summarizes it, and captures it to help save staff time and help with case management follow-through. Then over the coming months, we'll be launching this with a handful of trusted testers, first in supervision and facilities, so we can make sure it's working and meeting all of your needs before we roll it out system-wide. We're also driving efficiency by building a platform for staff to track, triage, and manage the things on their workload. We've seen all your color-coded spreadsheets. We've seen the highlighted lists, the post-it notes that you've all got to track all the various different tasks and deadlines. And we're working on something to try and help streamline that. So here, for example, we can see a fake caseload showing some contact standards and upcoming tasks for a parole officer. I can see that David has a home visit that's due next week. And so I can pull up more information about things like when was his last contact, how often the contact is required by policy, the sorts of things that might feel basic, but we know often require mental math and custom spreadsheets and post-it notes and whatnot. We're also working on putting more information in residents' hands, so building on that first version of the app that we launched last week. The next version will go further, surfacing key information about sentencing dates, and then building other features from there. So we're starting here with meetings and tasks and looking at things for the client and resident app. But the principle underpinning our approach is that we'll incrementally build tools in collaboration with all of you, listening to your needs and feedback to inform our priorities about where we should go next. And then we'll just keep building to improve things for you all across the system. We know there's plenty of work to do, but we're really excited to do it with all of you. So that's taking us to our final takeaway. We love Colorado. We love the energy, the passion, the creativity of the staff across CDOC that we've met so far, and we're excited for this partnership and for our work together. So please do get in touch. Our email address is here. We'd love to hear your comments, feedback, questions, ideas, and looking forward to working with you all over the coming months and years. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kelly. Do you have any follow-up remarks on that, Mr. Kelly?
No, just I can't tell you how excited we as an executive team are about this partnership with Recidiviz, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the individuals that have already been engaged and working with Recidiviz. We are very far down this path, especially considering how recently we kind of kicked off the partnership. So we are so excited for the tools that are going to roll out and what they mean to this agency. So thank you, Tess, for joining us today and giving our staff a glimpse into what's to come.
Thank you so much. If you'll stick around, Mr. Cayley, I know we have some questions for you here coming up. Next up, we have our Director of Finance and Administration, Mitch Karstens.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So we've got a couple of things that we want to do some updates on. So budget in particular, and where we stand kind of in the legislative session. So first off, as many of you know, we have worked through the supplemental process with JBC and with the legislature. The supplementals have passed out of JBC, out of appropriations, and have now moved to the legislative floor. That bill is being considered, and we hope to wrap that up here in the next week or two on the floor. What mostly that is change to our caseload, so additional beds that the department needs between now and the end of the fiscal year. So that is ongoing. We also have our decision item requests for next year, which start July 1st, 2026. So we have about 13 of those that are currently under supervision by JBC and review by JBC. The next step of that is what's called figure setting. So that is when they look at all of the requests from all state agencies and start to make some decisions on yes or no's between all of the state agencies. As we've talked about before, the state budget is currently tight and difficult. So I think for this fiscal year, they are still showing about a $350 million shortfall, and next year about an $800 million shortfall. So we are in a very tight and difficult budget scenario at the state legislature that they need to balance between us and the other state departments in order to get a balanced budget. We are required by state law to have a balanced budget, and so that is what they are marching towards on that. We also will be having what's called 1331s or emergency supplementals that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. And that is to true up the budget for this year as well on late ads and issues that the department is having. So all state agencies have to report those by March. Our department will have a couple that we will be submitting to balance the budget for that. So that is where we are. We have just now started the process for the FY28 request, which seems very far off, but it is right here. So we had a budget summit last week. And so all the AAs and wardens and directors from across the department got together and started to talk about what are the needs for the department and how do we start to prioritize those and the asks that we will make for FY28. So that is launched off and is exciting. Again, the budget request process takes about 16 months. So we are, it's crazy to start to thinking about that we are working on FY28 already, but we are. So we have that. And I know that there are some questions forthcoming from Rebecca on comp time. So, and our changes to comp time that we have coming up. So I'll hold those until then.
All right, thanks so much. Let's jump right into it. In prior live chats, DOC discussed looking into other real estate options to expand headquarters. Is DOC considering expanding into Pueblo or Pueblo West area?
So at this time, we are not looking at that. So we have a lease here in Colorado Springs. That is our headquarters location. Headquarters is actually dictated through DPA, and we work through the state real estate in order to do that. So Colorado Springs was selected many moons ago by the state, so that is where our headquarters will remain. We also have a long-term lease that is in Colorado Springs for our headquarters. And I will also add, we are actually the only state department that has a headquarters outside of Denver. And so to move further away from Denver kind of causes some complicating factors there from the delegation. So we will remain at headquarters in Colorado Springs for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. As promised, we do have some comp time questions. I combined them. So here is the combined answer, or combined question, excuse me. It has long served as both a safety net for staff during emergencies and a valuable recruitment tool, especially at hard to staff facilities. If the concern is how and when comp time is used, why eliminate accumulation entirely instead of just adjusting policy, such as requiring advanced approval, except in emergencies? Removing the ability to build comp time may discourage staff from volunteering for extra shifts or coverage. Why wasn't the decision put to staff input before moving forward?
Yeah, so as you said, Rebecca, you kind of combined a few questions here, and we've got a kind of combined answers here. So I think there was a number of things that went into this. First off, there was a state personnel board rule change that revolved around comp time, and this was that comp time can no longer be carried forward from year to year. So that was not a DOC decision, that was a state personnel board rule, which means that at the end of every fiscal year, all comp time would have to be paid out, regardless of classification or location inside of the department. And so that was one of the catalysts for doing this. There was also a change to the para classifications on comp time and what was going to be required or calculated inside of the HAS, which is your average, their highest average salary. So it was actually going to change the classification and what could be included in your HAS. So while looking at that and reviewing that, as well as some operational perspectives, we did take a look at that and change the rule that we have internal to DOC. So effective April 1st, regardless of whether comp time is currently being used in those roles, it will go to straight payout of overtime and have those employees pay out overtime when they actually utilize that instead of accruing it and then having to pay out in one large lump sum at the end of every single fiscal year. We know this does change the way that you need to look at your time, both vacation time and sick time, and the balances that you have. That is why we have put in kind of a longer time frame. So while comp time will stop accruing April 1st, comp time will be able to be used until June 30th at the end of the fiscal year when we pay out. So we wanted to give a runway for individuals to be able to accommodate that. If there was prearranged plan to use comp time, we want to make sure that that could be utilized and that we didn't just make a change and the next day it was in effect. So.
Thank you. You touched on overtime. Let's get to this question. With the recent change in how our department is paying out overtime for non-exempt overtime eligible employees, is it true that the 60-hour minimum rule before we can get paid no longer applies?
So that is correct. So starting April 1st of 2026, all overtime will be paid straight time. So if you work 1 hour of overtime, you will be paid 1 hour of overtime in order to do that, which means that the March timesheets that will pay on 4/31 of 26, if you have comp time indicated there, and then after 4/1 transition to comp time will be paid out. And overtime is always paid a month in the rear. So please make sure that you realize that as well. So comp time is always paid 1 month in the rear.
Thanks for clearing that up. Several mortgage brokers have said that information given for the work number doesn't match our pay stubs, and other state agencies avoid it altogether because they have to pay to access that information. If DOC is paying for this service and lenders also have to pay, especially if the data is unreliable, is this an effective use of our state resources? And can you confirm whether DOC and mortgage companies both must pay to access VOE and VOI information?
Yeah. So the work number does provide accurate information. However, it can be confusing because it does not break down the difference between your salary, shift differentials, overtime, incentives, whatever may be in there. It is a one lump sum. So sometimes that is a little confusing if you're looking just as your base pay or items like that. Also, depending on timing and when payday is and when that information is pulled, there can be a lag between those two items. So if payday is 1/31, the work number doesn't receive those until the 6th of February, and it kind of matriculates from there. The state is the one that manages this. So DOC does not handle this all by ourselves. And this is the official site that the state has selected as of September 1st, 2023. So again, that is a vendor of the state of Colorado. So that is who we utilize from a state perspective, not just a DOC. There is a cost for a company to verify employment. However, employees can go in and retrieve their information without a cost and provide that to the vendor or verifier if they will accept that. Some will take that and some won't take that. It just depends on the verifier that you're going through.
Thank you. It would not be a live chat if we didn't talk about step raises. This staff member would like clarification on how step raises are applied. This person states the co-wins agreement states that a 5% increase at milestone years. But after reaching my 5-year mark, payroll told me I wouldn't receive an increase because my salary is already slightly higher than the minimum. Since across the board raises move us up above minimum, this seems to be effectively eliminate step raises. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so there's some idiosyncrasies here. So minimum is one thing. And if you have a question about minimums, I would ask that you reach out to either myself or HR. Step raises are handled by HR, so they're the ones that do the evaluation on that and process that through. We do follow the board rule, though, which governs how step increases are handled. So when they're applied, how they're applied, at which rate they're applied, all of those things are handled in state personnel board rule. And the annual compensation plan gives the step amounts and what that looks like. If you would like this state personnel board rule that links directly to this, it is long and lengthy. Please reach out to payroll or to HR. Either one of us can help direct you to the state personnel board rule that matches where this is and how those numbers are applied.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Is some of the budget funding requests for beds going to staff incentive pay?
So not at this time, and part of that is the way in which we ask for this. So right now, as I said, we have supplementals that are going through, which is a true up for this year. Supplementals have certain statutory requirements to meet in order to ask for a supplemental request, which means it has to be unforeseen and there's a bunch of other things in there. So staff incentives do not currently match the supplemental criteria and are not part of that request.
Thank you. Let's jump over to our Policy and Legislative Affairs Director, Adrienne Sanchez. Good morning.
Good morning.
Given the current budget shortfall and overcrowding in DOC facilities, has the department explored releasing offenders with ICE detainers to federal custody earlier in their sentence rather than housing them until completion in order to free up beds and reduce costs?
So thank you. This is an important question. So Senate Bill 25276 mandates that all state agencies adhere to some strict guidelines regarding the disclosure, collection, and release of an individual's personal identifying information. Intentional violations of these requirements are subject to a civil penalty that could be levied directly on the staff member who violated the release guidelines. So in order to protect the department and meet the requirements of the legislation, we've created and implemented Administrative Regulation 146, titled Immigration and Customs Enforcement Processes. And I would recommend you, all staff, please make sure you read and understand this very important regulation.
Thank you. A while back, the department sent out a questionnaire about uniforms and hygiene. Why does the department not enforce hygiene and uniform regulations that we already have, such as facial hair, nose rings, tongue piercings? It's not uncommon to see staff wear clothing without badges such as hoodies and hats. Why are these simple regulations not being enforced?
So thank you to whoever sent this in for your candid feedback regarding our uniform and hygiene standards. We recognize that consistency is vital for team morale and professional identity, and we appreciate those who continue to uphold the current departmental standards. The recent questionnaire was a deliberate first step in evolving our policies. Our goal is to develop an updated dress code that better aligns with the preferences and practical needs expressed by our staff. And we believe that by integrating your feedback into a modernized policy, we can create a standard that's both sustainable and widely supported. So regarding the concerns about current enforcement, we view this as a transitional period as we work toward finalizing a policy that reflects the modern workplace and our team's input. Our primary focus has been on gathering the data necessary to ensure that future enforcement is both fair and relevant. Once the new guidelines are established based on the questionnaire results, we will be implementing a refreshed training and enforcement strategy to ensure that all staff members and leadership are aligned with a single clear set of expectations.
Thank you. This staff member would like an update on how the DOJ investigation into DOC is going.
Good question. The Attorney General's office continues to have conversations with the DOJ attorney assigned to the investigation, and they continue to notify the department on any next steps. Presently, we received a request for documents from the DOJ, and the legal services team is reviewing these along with the Attorney General's office so that we can narrow the scope and determine what can be reasonably provided to the DOJ. I would like to note, if you receive a request to provide documents from our legal team here at headquarters, please prioritize gathering these documents as quickly as you can, as we want to provide the documents with any appropriate privacy protections as quickly as possible to DOJ to keep things moving along. While the investigation is ongoing, though, our daily focus remains unchanged, maintaining the highest standards of safety, medical care, and constitutional protections for everyone in our system.
Thank you so much. Our culture coach is here with us this morning, Jessica Stotts. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm well. We have several questions for you that I have a feeling you're going to answer in your presentation this morning, so take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely appreciate the questions moving forward. Our program is new and is always fluid and evolving to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the department, our staff and offenders, as well as our community partners. So one question that we've received quite frequently is, why hasn't my team received an assessment yet? So I just wanted to review some of the nuances of the program itself. So our goal isn't speed and completion. Our goal is comprehensive and holistic review of all facilities, parole offices, and auxiliary teams throughout the department. This normally takes about a 3 to 5 day span on the ground for in-person interviews, and then a significant amount of time on trend analysis, both before and after the assessment takes place. Currently, we are on track to exceed our goal of 28 assessments prior to the end of this fiscal year, with an overall goal of finishing all DOC teams by the end of the upcoming calendar year of 2026. That being said, so far we've completed 17 assessments in full throughout the department, and we have 3 assessments in progress. I'm excited to report that we've talked to nearly 500 staff, so I'd say plus or minus 475 staff interviews across the state. Over 125 total offender interviews, and close to 50 culture cadre participation with members from different classifications and divisions throughout the department. What I will say is I appreciate all the support between supervisors, appointing authorities, and interest in joining the cadre. It's really what makes this successful. We are on the ground a 2-person team, but having the support of nearly 50 other people to make this happen is definitely a blessing. So thank you for that. As far as facilities, parole offices, we've done a mixed bag between facilities, parole offices, and auxiliary teams, still touching on behavioral health, Office of the Inspector General, PLA, OHR, and CTA as well. Some key successes so far since the implementation of this program is the codification of our policy. So that's 1450-61. If you ever have any specific questions as to processes and follow-up as a part of the assessment process, the AR is a great guide, but also I'm here to help as well as my team, and I'll provide that contact information at the end of this brief presentation. Also want to give a shout out to Major Jim Bidmar for collaborating and really developing a programmatic training session on interviewing to assist members of the cultural cadre to ensure that we are being unbiased, that we're being consistent in our practices, and that we're also meeting the needs of the staff and offenders we're interviewing by meeting their personality traits while also remaining within the same parameters of the questions that we ask across the board. Focus groups have also been pivotal in the success moving forward of the assessment program, and we really wanted to highlight the successes at BVCC and the Aurora parole offices. Staff at both locations have just been uninhibited in their feedback, and we appreciate them coming forward with solution-focused discussions and not just complaints without bringing solutions to the table. A lot of times we get questions regarding what's the overall trend, what are people talking about? And I feel it would be a disservice to say, hey, there's one trend, there's 2 trends, when we've spoken to over nearly 500 staff members. So some areas where we can grow collectively and from an aggregate point of view would be targeting our recruitment and retention efforts. This really came up on our auxiliary teams. A lot of times, our highest needs positions are in the correctional series or CSTS, but those auxiliary teams also would like to see some targeted recruitment going their way. enhanced focus on programming availability that came from both our offender and staff interviews as well. Increased positive social media presence and community involvement. Again, across the board, everyone wants to highlight all the great things that we're doing in the department to kind of counteract some of those negative perceptions that unfortunately are a reality of what we do. Especially for our facility-based supervisors and leaders, development of a PMP refresher training, separate and apart from the standard HR supervisor training, has been a request. So our HR team is working on that at this time, as well as creation of leadership-specific training has been a request across the board as well. Staff want to see improved recognition efforts department-wide as well as at their local facility level. And then also a heightened awareness of customer service offered to internal stakeholders. So those comments coming, from relationships with HR, payroll, the IG's office, just working together to better deliver on the mission of the department. And we already touched on this earlier in a different part of the live chat, but ensuring dress code compliance, especially at the leadership level, came up quite a bit during the assessments. But it's not all growth opportunities. We're definitely winning across the board as well. Again, speaking to the focus groups held at multiple locations, programming was mentioned specifically as a positive support of mental health. And staff overall feel a sense of pride, accomplishment, and fulfilled in the job that they're doing. With the top 3 reason of people joining the department is making a difference in the state of Colorado. It's nice to see that full circle moment when we're interviewing staff on the ground, that they are also feeling fulfilled in completing their job. OJT through CTA and the mentorship program, as far as the sergeant mentorship and leadership programs, have helped to build relationships and provide accurate insights as to job expectations. Getting that buy-in and uninhibited feedback from staff, offenders, and community partners statewide has definitely been a win of this program. And then just open dialogue facilitated between appointing authorities and their staff, so there's a clearer understanding of the current culture of their teams. That's a lot of information. I know our live chat's pretty full, so I want to maintain that time parameter, but please feel free to connect with us at any time. We have a DOC culture email. If you have anything you want to send in from your scan machine, calling us or emailing us, we're definitely more than happy to help.
Thank you so much for that presentation and for what you do. Appreciate that. You answered every question that we had sent into the live chat, but if you do have more for the live chat or for Ms. Stats on this culture assessment, you can send them to DOC_questions. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our Director of the Office of Human Resources, Michelle Cunningham. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Jess.
What is DOC doing to strengthen hiring and retention, including expanding outreach to local schools and communities? And how is it supporting staff in rural areas with limited resources?
This is a fantastic question. So for fiscal year 25-26, the career team is focused on long-term retention and statewide recruitment. We're proud of our progress so far, but we're always open to new recommendations for schools or community groups that we should engage with. So regarding retention and professional growth, we have established partnerships with multiple universities to offer unique tuition discounts, ensuring leadership and specialized roles are accessible to all staff. Also, our team manages 4 dedicated inquiry channels. One is for careers, one for internships, one for retention, and one for solutions to provide every employee with a transparent, responsive feedback loop from day one. And recruitment is a DOC_HQ_careers. Internships is DOC_internships. Retention, DOC_retention. And then solutions, DOC_solutions. We have also heightened our community presence. As of February, we have attended 128 events across the state, with 4 months of active scheduling remaining in the fiscal year. We have maintained a consistent presence at over 20 different educational institutions, ranging from major universities and trade schools to local junior and senior high schools. And by utilizing a partner network for rural outreach, we ensure DOC is represented in local communities, while our core team focuses on sourcing and advertising for our hard-to-fill positions. Finally, this is the work we have completed so far for the current fiscal year. And again, if you have any suggestions for further outreach, please feel free to share them with us.
Thank you. Currently, we are only allowing the top 6 individuals to make the list for transfer each time, excuse me. If an employee has the approval of his or her appointing authority, why do they have to wait and make the transfer list? And why do we have to wait to pick them up?
Great question. So the process of establishing an eligibility list for positions posted is a requirement of the Department of Personnel Administration, DPA, per Board Rule 4-11, and in accordance with the CDOC's site agreement. These guidelines ensure a fair and unbiased process in filling all posted opportunities.
Thank you. This staff member is seeking clarification from the HR Benefits Unit regarding the use of holiday leave. The Division of Adult Parole is being forced to use 8 hours of holiday allotment on their flex day or day off if they're on a 410 flex schedule. This violates policy and the Cohen's agreement. A holiday is a state-allowed benefit, and we should not be forced to use it on a day that we're already scheduled off and we're forced to work a 5/8 schedule. This is not the spirit of the 410 flexible work arrangements or conducive to a work-life balance.
Thank you for sharing your concerns regarding the application of holiday leave for staff on 410 schedules. I would like to clarify that the practices in place prior to February 16th, 2026, and this is for Division of Adult Parole, were fully compliant with the partnership agreement and all applicable internal policies. Furthermore, transparency regarding these requirements was maintained through an internal email distributed to all affected employees in November of 2025, ensuring staff were notified of the schedule changes well in advance. While the previous practice met all regulatory and contractual requirements, management has recently engaged in further internal discussions regarding the optimization of holiday leave management. As a result of these discussions, the decision has been made to rescind that specific practice. For detailed guidance on current procedures, please refer to the formal communication distributed by Jessica Sapp on February 17th, and you can also reach her via email.
Thank you. Sterling staff are receiving letters from Cigna informing them Banner Health may no longer be an in-network provider after May. What's the state and the department doing to ensure Northeastern Colorado state employees will retain affordable health care?
Another great question. So the letter you received is part of a required notice process that happens when a contract between a provider system and the insurance carrier is nearing expiration, and they are in active negotiations. We realize that notices such as this can be stressful, especially when providers and facilities are limited in your area. Both the provider group and the carrier understand the stakes, with the state of Colorado being their largest shared client. We have been told that they are working hard to reach an agreement, and at this time, there is no indication that coverage will lapse.
Thank you. Such an important question. We appreciate you answering all of them. Let's jump over to Keto Best, Director of Adult Parole. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why do parole field training officers not receive instructor credit for time they spend training new staff, which lasts 4 phases, which is about 4 weeks each, despite having to attend the same training other trainers have to attend?
So thank you for this question. Parole field training officers, commonly referred to as FTOs, receive instructor training credit for time spent training new staff through the field training and evaluation program, which is the FTEP. Both student and instructor codes were created in 2022 within the CDOC training system, TIS, to ensure credit is properly applied to both the trainee and the FTO. Upon completion of all 4 phases of the FTEP, the FTEP training roster is then sent to the parole training unit email, .parcom training unit at state.co.us. The parole training unit will then enter the data to ensure credit is applied to both the new employee and the field training officer. If this situation pertains to a specific office or a case where credit is not reflected, please feel free to contact Deputy Director Jessica Sapp and Parole Training and Post Coordinator Matt Alvarado so we can review accordingly.
Thank you. What could be done to remedy the situation on weather delay issues? People were already sent home, were already at work the day before the delay notice last month. Then employees were told to go home and then come back 2 hours later when they were already at work. Doesn't that conflict with safety standards for the office?
So this inquiry references an isolated incident from, again, either early in January sometime or late December of 25. At the time, the information was not clear with respect to weather conditions, school closures, etc. The assigned AD and community parole officer made a concerted effort to render a decision as quickly as possible. These decisions can be complex as we are a division which provides essential services and thus responsible not just for staff safety, but also to ensure that critical foundational operations remain functional for public safety during emergencies, which include weather-related concerns. We recognize the benefits and appreciate staff's commitment to the early morning arrivals under such circumstances. Unless under exigent circumstances, however, staff already at work do not go back out. It's not expected the staff go back out into the elements, only to return to work 2 hours later. So we certainly, if you got that information, we would apologize for that. But again, you're not expected to go back out in the elements once you've arrived at work. The division seeks to follow the same trend as prison ops where possible. Mark and I keep an ongoing tab on each other during these incidents. However, there remains room for improvement with respect to communication. We will continue to review, not just for staff, but also ways to communicate with our parole population to prevent them from even reporting during such circumstances to the office where possible, where staff feel compelled to have to also come to the office because they have reporting folks coming in.
Thank you. Per the APPA standards, section 6.5, a workload study is suggested. Will one of those be conducted at some point, or at least a breakdown of tasks involved to do our jobs timely and properly?
So thank you for this frequently asked question as well. The division is currently implementing structural changes to right-size caseloads, refine supervision methods, and improve our and database to better align with APPA standards and best practices. These operational improvements are our immediate priority. And once these changes are fully implemented and stabilized, we will then evaluate whether a formal workload or time study is necessary and appropriate.
Thank you. With the EOMIS experiment, will there be additional training for staff? There seems to be so many things falling through the cracks due to not knowing the system or how to use it, or not having the basic functions that CWISE had.
Yeah, we acknowledge programming and data challenges associated with EOMIS implementation and understanding the frustration these issues have caused and continue to cause. A dedicated team is actively identifying, tracking, and addressing system issues as they arise, including functionality gaps and data concerns. We are committed to resolving these issues and will continue to provide guidance, updates, and additional training as needed to ensure that staff are supported and that the system function as intended. And I would add, that our supervisor, Sheila Rominsky, does a phenomenal job in trying to manage these issues as they come forth. And I know she continues and her team to be committed to addressing those issues along with Eddie Kelly as expeditiously as possible.
Thank you. With the CCIC NCI checks being completed monthly, this takes a minimum of about 4 to 5 hours to complete. That's over 40 hours a year worth of work time that's being utilized. Could this be reduced to every 6 months when the CSTs are being completed, or even quarterly?
So the current executive directive requiring monthly NCIC, CCIC checks remain in place to ensure critical information is not being missed while we work through some of the programming limitations. We recognize the time impact. However, this measure is intended to prevent gaps in supervision and public safety oversight until a more permanent system solution is implemented. Steps are already and have been underway to implement a programming fix with the appropriate agencies and vendors. They continue to test out, test the fixes to try to get it to be a workable system where we can dial the manual checks back. But once completed, any changes to frequency or process will be communicated through an updated policy and formal guidance.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's move over to prison operations. Our director, Mark Fairbairn. Good morning to you.
Morning, Rebecca.
In April, the management team in Sterling took away the roll call time from COs in the kitchen. They said it was due to budget cuts, but laws I've looked into state you have to go through a security, if you have to go through a security screening, that's considered time on the clock. How is that fair, and what's being done about it?
So the purpose of a roll call is to, one, ensure we have adequate staffing in the facility, and that's where staffing assignments are made on post acceptance. So the difference between that and what is done in the kitchen is kitchens are self-contained, and there's often during shift change, there's minimal offender presence or operations are slowed. So all this can be done simultaneously. So there's not an additional need for roll call time. So when a CO is assigned to the kitchen, they don't have a need to attend a roll call. Now, if they are assigned outside of the kitchen to another assignment, they should attend a formal roll call and should be compensated as such.
Thank you. I apologize in advance. There's no additional context provided to this question, but we'll see where it goes. Why are line staff punished for following guidelines or plans made by a supervisor? I understand things happen, but there needs to be some flexibility on the side of leadership in these cases.
So this is sounds like a very specific situation, and I definitely would like to be able to respond and address it. So I will ask that whoever wrote this question, they can reach out to Deputy Director Lezak or Deputy Director Bertlow or myself, so we can assist them because I do want to address this.
Thank you so much. I'll remind everyone that you're also welcome to send in additional questions, DOC_questions. I'm wondering about why the Denver complex does not have emergency lighting when the power goes out. I would think this is essential and a fire or safety requirement. This puts staff in harm's way, being stuck in the dark with offenders.
And that is correct. So the Denver complex is it's equipped with backup generators that do turn on in the event of a power outage, and it does meet all the requirements for emergency lighting. What had happened, and I believe what this staff member is talking about, is recently there was a power outage that occurred in the facility, and there was a glitch in the system where power was not immediately transferred to the generator. That has been fixed, and all the batteries were replaced and tested, so there should be no further incidents of this matter. But we do regularly weekly checks on our generator, quarterly checks to try and address these. Unfortunately, this was one that didn't get caught until they actually had the power outage.
Thank you. With the additional work being added onto case managers to complete work for parole board, caseloads growing, and an uptick in inmates being eligible for community corrections, is there any possibility of reducing the amount of time that we're posted as officers? So
Currently, with our overtime mitigation plan, there shouldn't be any facility that has a posting level that would not allow case management that amount of time to complete those tasks. So if there is a specific incident, again, I ask that you reach out to one of the deputy directors or myself so we can look into it. And again, as mentioned before, the overtime mitigation plan is made so facilities can individually evaluate their staffing needs and what is needed for posting. To minimize that requirement as as low as it can be. So if there is something more or they're being posted above levels of what they're supposed to, please reach out. But that is the purpose of the mitigation plan.
Thank you. Earlier in the chat, Director Stancil touched on this next question. I'll ask you for additional general questions or additional general question here if you want to add anything else to this. How will the ruling regarding work-related expectations for people in our care affect the DOC in the near future and in the long run?
So again, I think Mr. Stancil covered it very well. This is a part where, as an exec team, we will review these findings, and we'll be talking to the AG's office and working with them, and we will work through it. And as we work through that process, we'll give staff updates.
Appreciate it. Non-essential personnel were sent home yesterday at our facility because of an emergency situation. We did not receive an emergency notification, IAP, or an all-staff email from the appointing authority. We only received verbal direction on the radio from a security line staff. Is this a new procedure? Who has the authority to send home non-essential staff? And what do we do to show proof if we to receive this administrative pay for time lost?
So there's several questions in one here. First of all, the appointing authority can send home those non-essential staff, but that is communicated up to the deputy director and up to myself when that is done. And that is done, as staff know, during inclement weather or emergency situations. So how they get paid for that is the staff resource coordinator will draft a memo with all the staff that did leave early for that day. That will be signed by the appointing authority and sent to payroll, so that they can be compensated when that AL administrative leave time is on their timesheet. As far as the communication, and I know this was kind of addressed earlier with Director Keto Best, but when we have inclement weather, there's times where we may have some time to talk and coordinate and think through things. Yesterday's situation, as some may or may not know, we did have a fire close to Lyman Correctional Facility. And it was a decision where we made, or the appointing authority made, to release those non-essential staff. So one, those that may have property affected could deal with that, and that we have the least amount of staff on grounds that could be affected by the fire. So the reason for the radio communication was to get it out as quickly as possible. But I do encourage whoever wrote this question to work with their appointing authority on any other ways that maybe in an emergency situation could be a better communication style.
Thank you. Eddie Cayley is back as the Director of Business Innovation Group. Hi there again. My job supervising library services involves making sure that offender residents have good access to review AR policies. Due to the technical issues and limitations, this has become a difficult task. What would be the possibility of getting policies put on LexisNexis so they can be reviewed from the securest tablets and in the law library?
So that's a great question. And I don't know specifically about the feasibility of placing and updating policies on LexisNexis, the platform, but we are constantly expanding internal data and content on the tablets. And we do intend to add the ARs as part of this expansion.
Thank you so much. Clinical Services Director Lacey Monday is here with us. Good morning to you, almost afternoon now.
Good morning.
What action is DOC taking to secure additional funding and grants to hire clinical staff for grant-funded positions where grants have run out?
So we've recently had a grant that expired. So that was our AG MAT grant. And we did convert these positions into FTE with vacant positions within DOC. So all of the positions that were part of that grant were converted and we hired for those.
Thank you. And back to our Executive Director, Andre Stancil. One last question for you, and I'll give you some final thoughts. Some days I spend a lot of time addressing constituent service requests, and often it's just to justify why we handle a particular situation in a certain way. Can headquarters do anything to help minimize the amount of time that needs to be spent on all these constituent services requests we seem to be getting these days?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And the reason that we go back to the facilities so a lot of times these come in directly to me or to constituent services. And one, constituent services is our way of documenting that we responded to these addresses. But what we want to do is make sure that we are responding in the manner that the facility has responded or is best able to answer that question, because there's times where I get asked things that I don't know why the facility did it the way they did it. So the best person to be able to tell that is the facility. Unfortunately, with all of the media and all of the things that are going on right now externally to the department, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of people see opportunities with the new DOJ with DOJ's announcement so there's just a lot going on. So I apologize if this creating any additional work, but right now it's a necessary evil. So I encourage you all to work with constituent services to get those answered. So hopefully that answered the question. If not, shoot me an email directly and I can talk further about that. There's just a couple of things that I want to talk about before we go. And this is more just some free tips. One of the things that I hear constantly externally and internally, and I've heard it a lot on this meeting, is we talk about, what are we doing to increase hiring and retention? And although we are not where I would want us to be, I think it's important for the department to know we are at pre-COVID numbers. We have hired over 1,000 individuals since this administration has taken his role as we are now. So we're doing a great job of hiring. We're doing a good job of retention. But the one piece that I think really needs to be talked about is we need people to come to work. We got over 39% of our staff are in some sort of active leave category. So if you take the number I just gave, and I'm not saying that these 39% of the new 1,000 that we hired are in this role. What I'm saying is 39% of our current staff complement is in some sort of active leave role. So if we hire 1,000 people and 39% of the staff are on some sort of leave status, 390 of those 1,000 that we hired are not at work. So we're still continuing our efforts to recruit. We're continuing our efforts to retain great staff, but I need some help from everybody. There are legitimate reasons why people are in leave status, and we also know there's some illegitimate reasons why people are in leave status. Just knowing a 24-hour operation, it really relies on people coming to work, right? So the second thing I want to talk about, and we usually do this once a year, so I'm gonna take the opportunity to do it now. Be mindful of what you put on social media. Even if your site, even if your personal site doesn't directly quote DOC, but if you have DOC regalia, if you have all these things that say you're part of DOC, I get emails all the time about things that staff are posting on their sites. So just be mindful of what you post. And then the last thing I want to encourage everyone to do is it's the beginning of a new year. I encourage everyone to take an opportunity to look at your beneficiary information. That's not something we think of a lot, but I've seen many instances where something bad has happened and the beneficiary information hasn't been changed, and your benefits go to someone other than who you really want them to go to. So I just encourage everyone in this time of the year, just make it a habit to take a glance at your beneficiary information, whether it's life insurance, all the other things that will pay out if something happens to you, to make sure that it's in fact going to who you wanted to go to. So thank you all for the great questions. Thank you, Tess, for coming on and speaking about recidivism. That's something I'm super excited about. Tess, thank you for coming on and talking about, the culture assessment team. That's another thing that I'm really dedicated to and I'm really excited about. And thank you all for your questions and your participation. And we'll do this again in a month. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right. Thank you very much. Couldn't do this without you. Our next edition of the live chat is Tuesday, March 10th at 3 o'clock. Until next time, bye-bye.